Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. So this was on Sky News the other day about a place called Brook House, which I believe is was one of the immigration centre for people that come to this country awaiting, to check whether their asylum cases were or their immigration cases were acceptable, or whatever the term is, and the treatment that they got. And it highlights the failings of humanity and why. Another example, how many more of these examples do we all need, of the failing of the system, of the way that we've chosen to live. And remember, the way we've chosen to live has changed throughout history. We all know that. We've all seen history documentaries. We've all seen, where they used to have sheriffs, and back in, the Roman days and all that kind of thing. They've always had different systems. But this is the one we currently have. And this is an example of how we're treating each other, because we divided bits of land up and decided that we own those bits of land, even though they're freely given to us all. And then people, because of the financial, historical way that we've treated each other, where some countries are poorer than others, and we've, even though we know how to do everything, we don't help each other. Everything has to be done for money. So all those things play into this, and of course this situation where we see each other differently, yet there is no difference between each one of us. No matter who you look at, no matter anything, everyone is equal, everyone is a human being, and yet why do we treat each other differently? And some of us do it without even thinking. Some, throughout, all the things that we watch on TV and movies, and all those little nuances that get inside our brain, all these, even the very system that we live in, the way it is, the way that we have different ranks for countries, and the way that we treat each countries, and the language we use when we talk about those countries, all those little nuances play in our minds. And over time, that creates a human. Like clay, you create that. Remember, when you were a baby, you knew nothing. So everything has been put inside you from somewhere, whether it's involuntary or voluntary. I.e., you did it when you were old enough to suck in this information and make those decisions, or remake the decisions that you were taught throughout when you were unable to. And it comes to this, where people harm other people just because they want to get from one bit of land to another bit of land. Because what? Because what? Because they want a better life. Because the country they're living in is not as good as the one they're going to. I mean, that seems fundamentally, isn't that part of humanity, that, of trying to survive? That is an instinct. Animals do it all the time. They move from one field to another, looking for the fruit, looking for the better land, looking for the better life. That is what we all do. There should be nothing wrong with that. But it's only wrong because we've divided bits up and said, this is ours, and you can't come to our bit. You have to stay in your bit, which we're going to keep poor because we want to make money out of that. That's the world we're living in. That's the brutal truth. So hear this. This is what human beings from, the so-called first world country, the white hats, the UK, the one that everyone talks about, the bastions of truth and equality and democracy and all those kinds of things. This is how we treat other people, other human beings. And it's not just us. I'm not just saying that. This happens everywhere. This isn't a UK problem. This is a human problem of how we treat each other, how we see each other. We've forgotten that when we come out of our mother's wombs, we were the same. We were all the same. If we were all raised the same, we'd all love each other. If we're all one family, we would all love each other. And yet truly we are. We are one family.
Sabbath for now, thank you. Now, in other news this afternoon, the Home Office has been accused of prioritising cost over people's welfare following a damning report into the abuse of detainees at an immigration centre. An inquiry into Brook House near Gatwick said those held there were mistreated and held in prison-like conditions. The inquiry identified 19 incidents over a 5-month period that amounted to mistreatment that was contrary to the European Convention on Human Rights. They included inappropriate use of force and unnecessary pain used on detainees, as well as initially failing to help a detainee after a suicide attempt. Well, it concluded that under the Home Office and the contractor G4S, Brook House was not decent, secure or caring. The chair of the inquiry rejected suggestions that it was just a minority of staff to blame and said a toxic environment was allowed to flourish.
I've seen concerning evidence of dangerous techniques being used, techniques that can lead to serious injury or death, of force being used to provoke or punish detained people, of force being used not as a last resort. There were multiple occasions where staff talked about past violence or future intentions to use violence against detained people. I was alarmed by how desensitised many staff appeared to be towards the vulnerabilities of the men being detained. Dehumanising language was not uncommon, including the repeated use of the mocking phrase, "If he dies, he dies."
That was the inquiry's chair, Kate Eves. Now, responding to those findings and the direct criticism of their action, the Home Office said that the treatment of those held at Brook House was unacceptable. Well, let's bring in our political correspondent, Amanda Akas, for more on this. So, look, 33 recommendations come out of Kate Eves' inquiry, and the Home Office has responded, basically saying it was unacceptable. So, what are they saying is going to change?
Well, yes, they don't really go into any details at this stage about what exactly they're going to do in response to this report. I can read you some of their statement, which goes on to say the government has made significant improvements since then to uphold the welfare and dignity of those detained, including strengthening safeguards, promoting a culture of transparency and improving the oversight of contractors' performance. We remain committed to ensuring safety and security in all immigration removal centres and to learn lessons from Brook House to ensure these events never happen again. Now, the statement does then go on to say that they are very carefully considering every one of those 33 recommendations made by the inquiry. But of course, that does very much leave open the question as to whether they're going to act on them. And particularly, one of her key recommendations was to change the law to introduce a 28-day limit for people being detained. There's currently no maximum length. So these are people, either foreign criminals awaiting deportation or people who are trying to fight their asylum claims, or people who have been denied leave to remain. One person was found during the Panorama programme, which was broadcast in 2017, which was what prompted this inquiry, to have been in custody there for more than 500 days. Wow. And the inquiry chair said that this is a place that's entirely unsuitable to hold people for any other than a short time. Now, during that original investigation by Panorama, it was described as being violent, dysfunctional, unsafe, people being held for a very long period of time. This investigation, however, identified 19 instances in just 5 months, which also seem extremely serious. So clearly many questions are answered.
Absolutely, and we're speaking to the chair of the inquiry, Kate Eves, at 3:30. But let me take you now live to the House of Commons, where the
2017 Panorama did, the BBC's Panorama found this out. 2017, 6 years. See how slow. This is the thing about this. Most countries, the bureaucracy. I don't know, how does it take so long to do these things? These inquiries, like this, the COVID one that's going on, they take so long. It's like, I don't know, I just imagine like snails. You know how slow snails are? Snails, like, this would be how they would do things. This is human beings. Why does it take so long to do these things, to write these reports? What are they doing in 6 years? And if you imagine, like, if that's, one person or a team of people, that are employed in those 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, how many hours, how many work hours is that it takes? Surely it couldn't take that long to interview a few, I don't know, 100 people, 200 people, to collate that all and come to some findings. 6 years, or maybe they're doing other things, I don't know. But anyway, there you go. That's how one set of human beings setting another set of human beings, just because even though intrinsically they're all the same, they're all human beings, it's just they see them as differently. Why do we see each other differently when there is no difference between us? That difference between us is a man-made construct, is something that's been developed over time to differentiate us. Why would anyone want to differentiate human beings? Why? For what purpose? The only purpose is so you can have power over others. Are we still holding on to that kind of mentality? Are we not enlightened enough to know that we're all one and we should be coming together so that we can enjoy our one existence on this place that we found ourselves upon? Take care, take it easy, God bless and peace.